Hello, my name is Daniel Yuck. Thank you for joining me in today's follow along. Today we are going to be tattooing this Pixel Charizard design right here from beginning to end. I want to start by listing off the gear that I'm going to be using. From there we'll dive right on into the technical application. So for the gear, I will be using a sheet of real skin, fake skin. This is going to be, I believe, like some sort of off-brand stencil paper. I will be leaving my Amazon affiliate links and other affiliate links for you in the description below so you can check out the gear that I'm using in this video in case you want to match it up on your end. So from here, I'm going to be using the Muso Toku Mercury M1 tattoo machine. I'm going to be using an assortment of needles. I'm going to start with a CNC standard 5-round liner for the outline, or I may even use an Ink Claw standard 3-round liner times 3 for the outline. I'm not sure how I'm going to approach that. I feel like a 5-round liner can be a bit more accurate, so I may go that route. For the ink, I'm going to be using dynamic black for the outline, and to fill in everything, I'm going to be using an assortment of mummy inks from the bright orange. I'm going to be using hot pink. I'm going to be using sky blue, mixing that with the white here. I'm going to be using orange as well as the golden yellow. So these are the different shade or different colors and tones I'm going to be using for this design right here. I'm going to start off with the black tattoo ink first, and then I'm going to make my way to the colors. So the first needle that I'm going to be using is going to be the CNC standard 5-round liner, just so that way I can be really accurate with where I'm going to deposit the ink. Now, if you followed along with me on any of my other follow-alongs, you'll know that I typically always start with the area that's closest to me. So for this design specific right here, I'm going to start with this area right here because I am right-handed and this area seems close to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little, or get a little bit of ointment right here on my pinky. I'm going to put it on the area that I'm going to be tattooing in these surrounding areas. Dab away so I don't clog my needle. And then from here, I'm going to identify my point A and then make my way over to my point B. So my point A is going to start right around here, running at 5 volts even. If I need to adjust or pick it up, if I want to pick up my pace, I can go ahead and adjust accordingly. But as of right now, I'm starting at 5 volts even. So you can see I'm kind of going from A to B this way. So I'm starting with a line that's going to intersect through all of these pixels right here. And then from here, I can go ahead and kind of keep continuing to build off of that line. So I have that one line. You're going to see that I'm going to start from right here. And then I'm going to bring this line this way. And the same thing. I want to make sure I get these as cleanly as I can get them. I'm not going for perfection, but what I am doing is going for the best that I can provide as the artist. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back for some more ink. Apply some ointment and wipe away. I'm going to kind of continue this where I establish these pixel boundaries right here like so, and then I can kind of go in and fill things in. There we go. Same thing right here, A to B. There we go, A to B. There we go, A to B. Same thing, A to B. There we go. So from here, I can kind of keep building these areas. So I have a choice. I can kind of line and pack it in as I go, or I can line the entire boundary and then go back in and pack it in. I'm probably more than likely going to line and pack in as I go, because if this were to be on a client, I would want to consider that once I put the line in there, it's going to get a little bit more tender. So it may hurt a little bit more when I come back to apply the packing there. So I'm going to try to stay away from skipping around too much here by establishing the boundaries first and then kind of packing. So I'm going to start right here. because I'm on this side now and I don't want to lose this area. And the same thing from here to here, and from here to here. There we go. There we go, A to B, and then A to B. There we go, A to B. There we go, A to B, A to B right here. And then A to B. And then the same thing with this last portion down here. I'm going back for some more ink flow. So here's my A point to my B point, my A point to my B point. There we go. I can kind of finish this out right here too. My A point right there. Gonna make my way on over to my B point. So here's my A point, and then my B point is gonna be over here. And you're gonna kind of notice that this process is gonna get repeated throughout the entire tattoo. It's not going to change. And I think the more steady I remain, the more consistent my read is gonna be when I'm done. So from here, I'm gonna go ahead and kind of continue building up this side, because if I work over here, this part of my hand is gonna be rubbing all over the design, which is what I don't want. So this is going to be my A point right here. Then we're going to make our way down to our B point, which is right here. Like so. And then we're going to do the same thing. So here's my A point. Then we're going to make our way on over to our B point, like so. You can kind of see it's just a repetitive process of A and B, making sure that you apply the lines as cleanly as you possibly can. So here's my A point. I'm going to make my way on over to my B point like so, and repeat. Still running at 5 volts. Make sure that I have adequate ink flow. And then I'm going to identify my A point. Bring it down to my B point. There we go. Here's my A point. Bring it down to my B point, which is right here. And the same thing. There we go, A to B. And I'm going to go back for some more ink and then kind of fill these areas in right here. There we go, A to B. And A to B right there. Same thing, A to B. A to B. And A to B over here. There we go. Just making sure that we're rolling. Sometimes I forget to roll the camera. And then from here, I'm going to wipe away and then kind of connect these intersecting lines right here. So here's my A point. My B, same thing right here. A point, going to my B point right here. And I'm going to repeat. So here's my A point. I'm going to bring this down. There we go. I'm going to continue. So from here on over this way. Same thing right here. So A to B. Same thing, A on over to B. Same thing right here. Just basically connecting everything together so that way when I fill in, I can kind of go by with a breeze there. And neither are wrong. Like if you outline all the boundaries first and then you fill it in, that's perfectly okay too. Neither of them are wrong. I think that it really just depends on the artist technique. So like, and the client's skin. So like for example, if this was on human skin and we notice a client's skin raising, then we're probably going to be working with someone who's a little bit more sensitive, which means that we may have fewer passes. So what that means is that we may want to be in and out as quickly as we can. Doesn't mean that we want to rush, but it means that we want to deposit the ink and within 1 to 2 tries, basically, is what that means. And then from here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start from my A point, make my way on over to my B point right here, like so. Same thing, A point, make my way on over to my B point. A point. Here we go. And then A point right here. B point is going to be this way. There we go. A point, B point, and then A and B. There we go. And then A point, bring this on over to the B point like so. A point, bring it on over to B, same thing. Here's the A point, bring it on over to the B point like so. You get the idea? So I'm probably gonna go to like halfway through and then start filling it in. Or I could just kind of, again, outline the whole thing and then fill it in after. It really doesn't matter. I believe that focusing on the technique and technical application is more important right now, especially in our earlier stages of development, making sure that we're really focusing and dialing in on the technique rather than doing everything right and wrong. So then now as I start working over the areas right here, you'll notice that I have a little bit more leeway to kind of work these areas. I'm going to start from right here because this pixel is going to go all the way across this way. So I'm going to start from that A point and then bring it over to my B point, which is going to be over here. Through this pixel, out to this edge right there. Just like that. So how I'm going to play this out is I'm going to use the remaining ink that I have in my cartridge. And then once I get to a point where I don't have any more ink, I will go ahead and switch on over to my ink claw mag to begin filling these in. I can even fill them in with this needle if I'd like. It's really going to be artist choice. There is not necessarily a right or wrong. We just have to make sure that we're getting the results that we're going for. So here's going to be the A point. We're going to bring this line all the way through to the B point, like so. There we go. Same thing, here's my A point. Same thing, A point, make my way on over to my B point. Same thing right here, A point. Same thing, A to B. Like so, A to B. There we go, A to B. A to B. Okay, that's looking great. I still have some ink in my tube here, so I'm going to keep kind of pushing it. So here's my A to B point. A to B. A to B. And A to B. Now, I'm running low on the black ink, and I'm also noticing that I'm not too far from being done. So for this follow along, I think that the route I'm going to take is just kind of maybe finishing it off with this needle and then switching over to the round or to the ink claw mag. I think that that would be the best approach, and if this was on human skin, I'd probably approach it the same way. So I'm going to A point all the way to my B point. Like so. A to B. Same thing, A to B. A to B. A to B. A to B, and A to B this way. Same thing with right here. Here's my A point. And I know that this may be annoying to hear over and over and over, but I feel like it's really important to kind of show and demonstrate that that is essentially the process. We're repeating the same thing over and over until we get the final read. I want a clean, solid, consistent outline, and I want all of this to reflect pixels, so I have to take my time. I'm going to do this eye right here. Same thing with the other one over here. I'm going to go back for some more ink. Here we go. And then I'm going to continue working this part of the design because this area is all pretty much locked in. I'm not worried about losing that anymore. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and identify my A point and simply make my way on over to my B point. Like so. And then the same thing right here, A point, and B point, like so. I'm going to go back for some more ink. Make sure that I have adequate ink flow. Here's my A point. I'm going to make my way on over to my B point. Same thing, A point. Make my way on over to my B point. There we go. Same thing over here. Same thing right here. And all the way through here. There we go. Go ahead and dab away. I'm gonna go back for some more ink. Make sure I have adequate ink flow. Put some ointment. Let's see what we're working with here. So here's my A point. Bring my A point on over to my B point. Same thing. And then A to B. And here's going to be my other A to B point. There we go. Same thing with right here. I'm going to hold the fake skin down. And I'm going to bring it this way. There we go. I'm going to go back for some more ink and keep it moving to this last wing area over here. So here's my A point, A to B right here. Same thing, A to B, like so. A on over to B. A on over to B. There we go. Here's my A point, and you're going to see that a lot of these lines are essentially intersecting, and that's how I'm getting that sort of like pixel straight look. So for example, this A point is going to intersect from this pixel through this pixel, and then I stop right here. Same thing, A to B through intersecting pixels, just like so. There we go. And then, same thing right here. Here's my A point. I'm gonna bring it there. Same thing, A to B. There we go. A to B. A to B. A to B. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of ointment. Wipe away and see everything here. If there's any other pixels that I need to connect, I will do so now. We got the entire outline done. I switched on over to the Ink Claw mag. Still running at 5 volts. I'm going to begin to pack everything in here. Still running at this 5 volts even. I'm going to go ahead and essentially repeat the process, but I'm just going to go ahead and kind of stick inside the pixels now and pack the black inside these pixels here. So here is going to be my A point. I don't necessarily have to worry about losing the outline, but I do have to worry about losing these details where the color is going to go. So we're still not out of the woods just yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my A point, which is going to be on one side, and then I'm going to use a series of small circular motions until I reach the B point, which is going to be the other side. And then I'm going to repeat that over and over and over. There we go. Same thing here. So here's my A point, small circular motions until we reach the B point over here. Same thing, A point, circular motions until we reach the B point, which is going to be over here. And then I'm going to dab away, and we're accomplishing optimal saturation there. So that is exactly what I'm going for. I'm going to repeat this all the way throughout. There we go. I'm going to kind of continue that exact same process all the way throughout. Making sure that we're rolling here. Going back for some more ink, and then I'm going to kind of go ahead and kind of continue working this area. So here's my A point. Small circular motions until I reach my B point. Just squaring it off a little bit more. And then there's some lines right here that I didn't quite get, but since I'm using a 3-round liner, flat 3-round liner ink cloth specialty needle, I can actually just line that with this since it's a smaller area. And then from here I'm going to go ahead and start from my A point, make circular motions until I get to my B point, like so. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back for some more ink. Over this way. And then I'm going to go ahead and go from A to B. So here's my A point. And here's my B point, and then we're just going to kind of repeat that going down as I've mentioned. And this is going to be the exact same process that gets repeated throughout each and every pixel. My main focus when packing is making sure that I'm staying true to the pixel integrity. I'm not like rounding off the edges or anything like that, but also just as important is making sure that I'm getting optimal saturation. I don't want patchy looking results. So here's my A point. You can see I'm doing small circular motions until I reach the end, which is going to be considered my B point. Then I'm going to go back up. I can even do a little bit of cross hatching in case I feel like my needles aren't depositing the way I want. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back for some more ink. And the same thing right here. There we go. I'm going to turn my mag this way and bring the packing down just to do a little bit of double layer cross hatching there. Same thing with this pixel. And I'm going to turn my mag and do the same thing. There we go. Small circular motions like so. There we go. And then I'm going to bring it this way. Small circular motions. Still running at 5 volts. I don't really need much more power than that. Just do a little bit of cross hatching here. So I'm just going to be a patient process of this throughout the entire area here, and then we can move on to the color. I don't necessarily want to rush any part of this design because I want to capture the pixel integrity and I want everything to come out clean and solid and saturated. There we go. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and put some more ointment, wipe away, and see what we were working with. The same routine I'm going to repeat. So here's my A point. There's my B point. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this pixel right here. So here's my A point. Just make small circular motions staying within the pixel confine there. And then I'm going to go to my B point. So my B point was halfway there. My A point's right here now, and I'm going to meet this B point with the other B point, like so. I can go a little crosshatch here as well. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and continue. Each pixel I apply, I always want to make sure that I'm doing it in a clean, solid, and consistent manner. I want optimal saturation. I want consistency. It's important to me, especially for this sort of pixel design here. So there we go. There we go. And I'm going to do a little bit of cross hatching going this way. So here's my A point. Make my way on over to my B point and back and forth. I'm going to do a little bit of cross hatching to smooth things out and apply a little bit more saturation in these areas, like so. And I can continue. I'm going to wipe away here. And that's what we have going. I'm going to go ahead and get some more ink and we're going to keep it going. I'm going to probably do this area right here and then kind of just keep moving on to these other areas. Now there really is no right or wrong simply because we have the outline done. So I no longer have to worry about losing that. Making sure that I have adequate ink flow. I want to make sure that I have my skin moisturized so that way I'm not tattooing on dry skin here. I could go from here, it really doesn't matter. So I'm going to kind of go over here, just kind of stay as consistent as I can. So starting from my A point, making my way on over to my B point using a series of small circular motions. I'm going to go ahead and do it this way. And I am using just the very tips of the needle here. I'm not like driving it into the skin. I see the needle catch, break open the skin, and then from there I'll just create small circular motions like so. I'm going to dab away, turn my machine, and then just do a little bit of cross hatching. That's great. Same thing over here. I'll do my machine this way and then bring it down this way before I continue. That's how I'm going to go about doing that area. And then same thing. So you're going to see it's kind of just the exact same thing where I go right and left and then maybe up and down depending on the area that I am tattooing. There we go. Same thing over here. A point. And each time I do this, I'm telling myself in my head A to B, circular motions, A to B. Then I kind of pay attention. Do I need to cross hatch a little bit? I will go ahead and do that as well where needed. I'm going back for some more ink here so I can continue on to the next part, which is going to be right here. So small circular motions. I'm going to do it this way. go. I'm going to go back for some more ink here. You'll hear me say this a lot. You can have your techniques and fundamentals down correctly, perfectly. However, if you don't have adequate ink flow, then the work that we're doing is just not going to come out consistent because our deposits aren't going to be depositing the way we need them to. We got to have adequate ink flow in order to have that level of consistency that we're thriving for. Or striving for, my fault. There we go. So I'm going to keep on moving this way. I'm going to go right here. There we go. Same thing, A to B. I'm going to navigate and turn my machine this way and do a little bit of cross hatching in these. There we go. And I'm going to continue working this way. A to B, small circular motions. A to B. There we go. A to B. I'm going to go back for some more ink flow here. A to B there. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of cross hatching. Excuse me there. Same thing. Here we go, A to B. You guys see I went down to this pixel right here. Still keeping the A to B approach. Just kind of slid down there to apply this area here. I'm going to go back for some more ink. I go back for more ink quite often, just so that way I can have adequate ink flow. And that also allows me to be in and out. I don't have to go back over areas too much because my deposits are pretty accurate the first time, I feel. I'm working off just a very tip of the needle as well. I'm not like really driving it into the skin. Once I see the needle catch, I begin kind of packing and going to work in the areas that need to accomplish saturation. So it's a very natural process. There's not a lot of drive behind my needle force. So from here, I'm going to put a generous amount of ointment to see exactly what I'm working with, wipe away any excess, and continue filling all of this in. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and go back for some more ink here. Wipe away. And I'm going to keep going here. I'm going to bring it this way. A little bit of cross hatching. There we go. So the idea is just creating a series of small circular motions going in right and left and up and down for me, and that's how I'm accomplishing the saturation that I'm accomplishing. It really doesn't get more complicated than that. The approach, the technique kind of stays the same. However, if our hand speed is not aligning to our voltage, then we're going to get a bunch of inconsistent patchy results, and I think that's really the main focus, is to make sure that these circular motions that I'm making are matching one another, and they're matching my voltage, so that way my needle has enough time to make its rounds to deposit the ink in a clean, solid, and consistent saturated manner, the way that I need my ink to be deposited. So there we go. And then I think that this session we can break it down. We can do one for this outline, and then we'll do another packing it in with a color. There we go. I'm going to go back for some more ink here, and then essentially continue this way. So I can kind of work the bottom and go up. I can start at the top, work my way down. It really doesn't matter as long as we are depositing the ink and staying within the pixel integrity. I think that we're going to be fine. I would also try to minimize going over the stencil as much as you can. There we go. Make sure that I have adequate ink flow here. Make sure that I put ointment on my tattoo sites. And I'm going to continue. So here I want to kind of extend this line right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate from my A point, which is right here. Hold the skin in place. And then I'm going to make my way on over to my B point, which is over here. That was a little bit choppy, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of go back over as needed. There we go. I'm going to do this area right here. Here's my A point. So from here, I'm going to put some ointment to make sure that I have saturation. If I don't, I essentially would have used cross hatching to kind of saturate it all in there the way I need it. When it's saturated, I just simply keep on going. And this is going to be repeated throughout the entire tattoo here. Every pixel is going to get treated the same. There we go. Same thing over here. Now the reason why I'm able to stay true to the pixel integrity here is because I have one roll of needles, so it kind of acts like a round liner, as opposed to kind of like some mags we have double rolls of needles, which can kind of distort the pixel integrity. So that's something that you want to be careful with. Make sure that the mag that you're using has one layer of needles and not two. If it has two, then you're likely to experience a lot of complications along the way, such as your needles kind of stepping outside your pixels, that sort of thing, compromising the integrity of the design. There we go. Making sure that we're still rolling, which we are. I'm going to go ahead and start filling in the rest of those the exact same way. Making sure that I'm using my eyes. If there's any areas that need to be packed in, I will go and pack those in. From here, I'm going to do the same thing. Round circular motions, like so. There we go. Same thing with this one. Now whenever it's a single pixel like this, I really take my time. There we go. So that way I stay true to the pixel integrity. It's very important because this is a pixel design. There we go. Dab away. Get a clean side of my napkin here. There we go. There we go. And then I'm going to go this way. I'm actually going to get a little bit more ink here. And then kind of cross hatch right here. There we go. And we're going to repeat over here. I think the process really requires just a lot of patience and attention to detail, making sure that every pixel you apply, you're paying attention to the edges, making sure that you're paying attention to your saturation and your technique to not damage the skin while still accomplishing optimal saturation. So it's all of these little variables that are going to align together that are going to make the final read great, and it's going to give it that wow factor. We really just have to take our time with the application process and take our time with our technique and make sure that we're not moving too fast, we're not moving too slow. You get the idea. So here's my A point, over to my B. Since these areas are smaller, I don't need to be in there drilling for a very long time. I just have to make a handful of circular motions, as you see, and I'm able to accomplish the saturation that I need here for this. So I let my needles penetrate and open the skin, and then when that happens, I kind of like drag them across, but using small circular motions. And then you're going to notice that when I go on to the next part, I'm still kind of halfway on the old area that I just tattooed. So this is how I'm getting that saturation. Before I move on to the next part, you can see that I'm still filling in the old area that I just went over to get that level of saturation. And then my circular motions, there's not too much spacing in between my circular motions, and that's also contributing to the saturation, because the bigger the loops that we make, the more patchy it's going to be. So we have to make smaller motions and make sure that our hand speed is aligning to our voltage, so that way we give our needle enough time to make the rounds that it needs to make to deposit the ink in a clean, solid, consistent, saturated manner. There we go. Same thing right here. There we go, right there. And then I'm going to repeat that with the rest right here, and we can call this one a completed session for the outline. Next session, we'll do the color. You'll hear me say this a lot throughout my follow-alongs, whether you follow along with me on YouTube or Patreon. You will hear me say that no matter how close I get to the finish line, I'm still going to take my time. I never want to rush any aspect of a tattoo that I do, because I want it to have that clean, consistent read all the way throughout. So I have that area done. I'm going to get my mag, turn it to the side, and then create small circular motions like so. And then from here, I'm going to repeat over here. Same thing. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit more ink here, so that way when I do this crosshatch, I'm making sure that I'm actually applying ink there. And then I'm going to continue with these last few areas And I feel like that would be it for the outline. Coloring would be on the next session. There we go. There we go. And then I have a few more pixels to go here. And then you're going to notice I'm still not going to rush. I want to really take my time all the way through. Still applying every single section with care and caution. Crosshatch on this one. Same thing right here. I'm gonna turn my machine and then do it this way. There we go. There we go. And then on this one I can do a little bit of cross hatching if I want. And we're going to finish this little area off with the exact same thing. Same thing here. So let me get some ointment here and then I will clean this up. I'm going to put a generous amount so that way I can loosen up any excess that is on the skin and I can see my true results. This way I can kind of see if I need to go back over any areas. If any areas are patchy, you get the idea. Here is the final outline, or the pixel outline rather, for this Pixel Charizard. I do feel like I captured the integrity of the pixel. At first glance, it definitely reads like a pixel tattoo. What that means to me is if I saw someone wearing this, I would instantly know that this is a pixel tattoo just because I grew up in this time playing games that involved graphics that looked exactly like this. So to each their own though, I do feel like I did a good job capturing this. Now, this isn't necessarily an easy design to kind of capture. Pixels can go south real quick. So if you don't like the results that you got, stay calm, cool, and collected. Come back in a day or so. Try this exercise about 1 to 3 more times, and you will see gradual improvements. That'll be it for this episode. The next episode, we will be doing the color, so be sure to stick around for that. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop a comment down below. I'll do my absolute best to assist you in the best possible direction. If you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and giving this video a thumbs up, as I would greatly appreciate your support. With that being said, thank you for your time and I appreciate you watching. Have a great day.